Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sohit Koda, and today I'll be talking to you all about the root of the problem and how trees can help us sequester carbon and fight climate change. So, as we know, human-induced climate change is a problem, and it's causing disruption in nature, and it will affect many people, especially our most vulnerable populations around the world. And it will affect us with extreme weather, extinction of species, and it will force many of us to have to adapt or force us to be left behind. In order to avoid or slow this loss, action and adaptation is needed, as well as cuts to our greenhouse gas emissions. So, how can trees be used to fight climate change? One of the ways that we can naturally sequester carbon is through trees. So as they grow, they take in carbon from the air and use it through photosynthesis to grow their leaves and stems. And they store carbon naturally, and as well as forests, forest soils also sequester a vast amount of carbon in their reservoirs. And according to sciencenews.org, about 16 billion metric tons of CO2 are absorbed annually by the Earth's forest. But unfortunately, about 8.1 billion of tons of gas are emitted back into the atmosphere via land clearing, wildfire, and burning of wood products. So how we go about where we plant trees and how many trees we plant is important. So there's two ways that we could go about this. One is reforestation, which is restoring and planting new trees in existing forests where they've been before. Another way is afforestation, which is planting trees in forests in areas where they haven't historically been. So the US Forest Service uses both afforestation and reforestation to restore forest land that's been damaged by fire, climate change, disease, and insect damage. And some of the benefits of this are creating new wildlife habitat or just maintaining it, improving water supply, but most importantly, sequestering carbon, which if you look in this image, you can see how tree sequesters carbon and puts out oxygen, which is good for all of us. Unfortunately, deforestation outweighs the planting efforts as 10 million hectares or 25 million acres are cut down and cleared per year from the years of 2015 to 2020, according to discovery.com. And just to give you a little perspective, this is roughly the size of Iceland and South Korea lost forest loss due to deforestation, land clearing per year. So as we know, clearing forest releases CO2, and Discovery also went to find that 23% of all man-made greenhouse gas emissions is the release of carbon from our trees. So another place we go wrong is main focus on how many seedlings and the number of trees that are being planted rather than survival of the trees we already have and protecting the forests that are already sequestering carbon and providing habitat for wildlife and humans. So we can overall try to reduce fire risk and plant more optimal tree planting schemes rather than focusing on single crop or the most that could go in an area, because this leads to less biodiversity, and the land clearing and harvest of trees releases more carbon into our atmosphere and contributes to microbial decay. So poorly planned tree plantations or forest plans schemes may do more harm than good in the long run. So what can we do? So we could protect our forests from wildfires, do controlled and prescribed burns, and better manage the land that we're using so that we can ensure large trees can continue to sequester vast amounts of carbon, and we can be mindful of our land usage as our soil holds a large reservoir CO2, and this disruptants in wildlife will cause more impact and adverse effects to the planet and species that inhabit it. While there is potential in trees and their natural carbon storage to fight climate change, we can only rely on them so much, and we can't rely on trees alone. We must use a combined method of natural carbon sequestration to remove carbon from our atmosphere. My classmates are going to be talking about a few of these, such as urban forests, kelp farming, and biochar, as well as others, and they'll better explain how these other natural ways of sequestering carbon can help us in the future against climate change. But again, they'll probably come to realize that we can't do it all with just one of these methods, but a combination of them all. As well as lifestyle changes, we can use clean energy and make upgrades where we can as individuals and as households to electrify everything. We can make changes in our diets, especially less meat intensive diets, especially beef, which is very harmful to our planet, and as well as vote for leaders that are going to enact change and who take climate change as an actual issue, something that we need to address quickly. Thank you. And here's my references. Thank you.